We all know that safety is a position of strength for Oklahoma State entering the season, but now we're loading up on linebackers, and I think I love it.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms as well as visually on YouTube. You can find me personally at All Day O State on the old Twitter sphere. And today we're brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook betting partner. All right, so we all knew that originally Brian Nardo was probably a good hire, but whenever you go completely into left field and pursuing your new hires, it can get a little tricky, yeah. But then you also look at the depth chart, and you also look at some of the moves that we've decided to make most recently, and you see that we're pretty loaded at the safety position. Now, from an NFL perspective, I think we all realize that Kendall Daniels can be that guy. I think we all realize that Colin Oliver likely is going to be a big proponent of what we're doing this season as far as defensive alignment is concerned. But when you look at some of the potential afterwards, you're going to lose a little bit of your seniority. You're going to lose a little bit of your leadership, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So as it pertains to some of the positions that Brian Nardo is going to be looking for as far as an Excel spreadsheet of what we have and what we have coming in and what we could potentially lose, I'm not bashful in this idea, this premise that we're loading up on linebackers right now. Now, if you saw over the weekend, Bo Tate decided to go to Baylor, as did Kylan Reed. Good for them. And it does beg the question, does that mean we're out on some other players in the game, or does it mean that these individuals decided that maybe we're loading up a little bit too heavily in their eyes on this one position? Now, if you all saw, we got another big linebacker commit over the weekend in Temerrick Johnson. Temerrick Johnson is listed all over the place from 6'3", 205 pounds, 6'4", 210 pounds. Regardless, it's going to look different when he gets through the body by glass, the factory, as we like to call it. And another one that I expect to make this move, especially now with the news of Bo Tate and with the news of Kylan Reed, is going to be Jonathan Agumadu. Jonathan Agumadu is set to make his announcement tomorrow on America's birthday. I, for one, cannot wait. I, for one, cannot wait to get out some more fireworks for this momentous potential occasion because the fit is, again, perfect. Temerrick Johnson is going to be very versatile. If we see him making the jump into potentially replacing like what we're going to lose out of a Colin Oliver, if Colin Oliver does in fact have the season that we know that he's capable of, it means that he's most likely going to put himself in a position to play some NFL ball here before too long. Now, when you look at what we have currently on the roster as far as, like depth is concerned, I think there's some intriguing guys currently on the roster that are going to be asked to do a lot more this coming season. Now, Xavier Benson, we know this is his last go-round. We also know that he stepped up and decided to be a massive voice and a massive leader in the locker room for this upcoming season. We expect a lot out of Nicholas Martin. Nick Martin has got a little bit of time, and I really like what he was able to do this previous season. Him and Lamont Bishop in red zone classifications, I think, were home runs. Now we're going to ask him to do a little bit more, and I think he's definitely capable of doing that. Jeff Robertson was supposed to be a starter last season. At least that's what most things seem to kind of indicate, that he was going to get a lot of PT, and then he had that injury. Colin Oliver, again, if he has the season that we know that he could potentially have, he's probably off to the NFL. I think Chance Clements brings a little bit of maturity, a little bit of understanding as far as schematically what we're trying to accomplish. And then Gabe Brown. Gabe Brown's an intriguing guy out of Stillwater, Oklahoma, 6'2", almost 230 pounds, will be after he gets through the body by glass system. I think he's somebody who could eventually contribute, if not only in the special teams department, but, as a stand-in this defense. Donovan Stevens gets a decent amount of PT. He's been in the system for a few years now. He should be able to capitalize this year on the snaps that he does get. Constantino Borelli, out of Don Bosco Prep, which is a factory for producing really good athletes. He's a redshirt junior year. So again, where is he going to be able to carve in a little bit of a role? We don't know yet. Justin Wright, again, we expect him to have a big season. That Dan Campbell, chew your knees cap off. He's that guy for us, right? He's going to be able to fill a role. Elijah Wright, another legacy type of guy that we love having on the roster. Bo Hardy popped in and off the screen last year in special teams on a consistent basis. So, he still adds a little bit of versatility. And then you've got some freshmen that could potentially, make a little bit of a rumble here as time goes on. But as it pertains to the guys that we have coming in, you guys know how high I am on Gunnar Wilson. Y'all know how high I am on Jonathan Agumadu. And I was a little concerned that we might not get Temerrick Johnson. Again, if you have the Bo Tate effect, you have the Kylan Reed effect, you could also see it go the other way around and it being some sort of, not a negative, but something you have to definitely pay attention to. And I see that. But I expect Jonathan Agumadu to make a decision tomorrow. Let's face it, it's basically us and TCU, SMU. And if you look at it, why would he go to SMU over Oklahoma State? Likely it would be for instantaneous playing time. I would assume that's also a part of the reason why Kylan Reed and Bo Tate decided to make the decision they did. It's because it's a little bit more of a easier route to instantaneous playing time, in my opinion. Another thing that I think we'd all be remiss to not pay attention to would be your pocketbook. Ladies and gentlemen, FanDuel is number one in a multitude of these classifications for a reason. And as I just got back from being on the road, traveling for baseball, it's full swing time. And it's time to get yourself hooked up because right now we are giving everybody up to $200 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So if you bet $20, that's 10 times your initial investment to get back in bonus bets right now. You can spend on any of the betting lines, from money lines, over-unders, who you think is going to be the first to hit home runs. There's a lot of things to bet on in the sport of baseball, which makes it pretty daggone fun. The app is safe, secure, and super easy to use, and you get paid instantly. There is no better place for you to bet on Major League Baseball than on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get your $200 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Again, that is FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go to FanDuel, the official major partner of Major League Baseball. All right, so as we continue to dive in here, obviously, we can have a conversation about the linebackers, potentially what they're going to add to this coming class. I think another position of a need, as far as what we need to see out of this coming season, has got to be tight end, right? The tight end position has been something that Oklahoma State has never really been great at using. I think if you go back and look at the last, legitimately full-time, all right, he's the guy, he's a weapon, 24/7, you probably have to go to Brendan Pettigrew. Blake Jarwin had a really good run in the NFL. I think more people saw what he could do with the Dallas Cowboys than saw what he was able to do at an Oklahoma State uniform. So when you check into the tight ends we have, I was very high on the future of what Tabor Shetron was going to potentially be able to be in a Cowboy uniform. I'm still high there. But I don't know if it's going to be tight end per se. Fullback seemed to suit some of our guys very well. One of those being, obviously, somebody we just recently moved to the tight end, or from the tight end position to the fullback position. And I think he's going to have a very big year. But from tight end specifics, everybody knows that we brought in Josiah Johnson. who is interesting, 6'5", 235 pounds, went to UMass to play quarterback, and then at UMass decided that he could probably do himself a little bit more of a favor by switching to the tight end position. And then you see him flourish in what they're trying to do a little bit last year. But when you talk about barely scratching the surface, I think that's exactly what Josiah Johnson is. The way that he can read a defense, the way that he can settle down and understand what he's trying to do from a defensive perspective cannot be understated. Playing the position of quarterback will suit him very well at this level. Now, how much of an integral role will he be in the system? We don't know yet. But we know that somebody like Alan Bowman was able to come in and understand what we were trying to do from a simplicity standpoint very, very early on, very, very quickly. Somebody else that's currently on the roster that we got from North Texas, who was pretty, I guess you could say, famous for that tight end position over the spring, is Bryce Drummond. Bryce Drummond coming from Pawhuska, Oklahoma. He's got some teammates, got some buddies on the roster right now, one of them being Mason Gilkey, 6'4" wide receiver that came from there as well. Loves rocking the orange and black. Can't wait to see what he can do. Now, Quentin Stewart is interesting because he's a true tight end from Salina, Kansas. That is a Coach McIndoe guy. He's recruited to come here and play his position. Now, at 6'2", 255, 250 pounds, you could definitely say he's undersized. You could definitely say that he maybe is a better suit for a potential fullback style of replacement. And maybe that's the case. But he was a true tight end, came here to play tight end, and maybe we will utilize him to do so. He did catch a touchdown late in the season last year, which is really, really good to see. Ian Edenfield, we've talked about on multiple occasions. He's a redshirt senior, right? So he's here to make a name for himself. Where that'll kind of slide itself on the scale of productivity, we don't know yet. More of a blocking guy, more of an aggression guy, more of a, get to the second level and take care of some stuff style of guy. But we have no idea what he's going to develop into. I do, however, think we should all circle back around to what Josiah Johnson can provide for us. It's been too long, really, since we've utilized this skill set in a Cowboy uniform. And again, Quentin Stewart catching that touchdown there at the end of the season is probably a pretty good indication on what we think we have. What that equals, we won't know. But it's interesting. If you caught the 365 sports show the other day, they do a phenomenal job. But they talked about there was an anonymous other Big 12 coach that talked a little bit about Oklahoma State. And if the other Big 12 coaches are still not privy to the offense we're going to roll out in this coming season, I think that suits us very well. I think it's ridiculous. But they talked about how somebody like Alan Bowman could potentially flourish in this Oklahoma State offense because he's done a good job in keeping this offense going for year after year after year. This is not the same offense. We're not going to be doing the same things, which is exactly why we're having this conversation. You haven't been able to talk about the tight end position being of value in Stillwater in quite some time. We haven't recruited the position well. That's because we haven't utilized the position basically whatsoever. Expect that to change this year. And I do expect these anonymous other Big 12 coaches that talk about how, you don't know what you're going to get. It's a big mixed bag of craziness in Stillwater. I think that bodes well for us. I think it would be it'd be great if the Big 12 coaches continued to underestimate what we have cooking right now. So you let me know down in the comments section who you think should potentially grab the reins, and is Tabor Shetron still developing into a potential tight end type style of guy, or is he going to be relegated more to a fullback style of role? I am pretty confident in what Josiah Johnson brings to the table. I'm pretty confident you're going to see the tight end position utilized better now than almost any time in the history of Oklahoma State that we've all been watching on a continuous basis. Alonzo Mays was phenomenal. Brandon Pettigrew was amazing. Blake Jarwin was a potential great that we didn't utilize enough. Now, we could talk about some of the other guys. We could. But to me, Josiah Johnson is that guy. I think he's going to be able to provide what we've been missing. Maybe not immediately. It might take him a little bit of time to kind of figure everything out. But the dude can catch. He needs to work on his routes, but I know he has been. And his understanding of what we're trying to accomplish offensively is not going to be a big curve. Right? That learning curve there is not going to be steep for him, which is why I don't think it's going to take him very long to kind of get in the fold. And honestly, we might not want to tip our hand super early. You know, usually you start off the season and you build up your offense, you build up your playbook, you try not to give as much away as you need to super early on, because that takes another weapon out of your gun. So even though I do think Josiah Johnson could have a potentially very nice season, I don't know if we see it immediately, nor do I know that it's necessary to see it immediately or not. You know, the way you kind of hide things until conference play, it can get a little wild. So I'll be intrigued to see how it goes. And lastly, as we're getting within a couple months here, we are now, of football season, is Oklahoma State still a golf school? Well, if this last weekend was any indication, the answer is yes. We need to find a way to continue to be that, because this last year was not so pretty. And, you know, I don't know if I'm super sold on Alan Bratton. Again, I know he's won a national title. Him converting from women's golf to men's golf, pretty cool. He's had some big-time guys, some All-Americans, and he's been around for a very long time. But when you see what Rickie Fowler did over the weekend, win the Rocket Mortgage Classic again, that last birdie, you could read how amazing it felt for him. Everybody knows his coach Harmon at one point in time, a couple years back, said that he didn't know if he was more worried about being a golfer or a Kardashian. Well, you read between the lines, he made a lot of endorsements. And then last year, I think, kind of speaks for itself, right? Has a wife now, has a baby now, which is exactly why you could read how differently this last weekend hit for him. It was different. It did kind of put him back on the map. And currently he's 8th right now in the world leaderboards. We've got 3 Cowboys in the top 8. And then on the LIV side of it, Talor Gooch is on fire. He won yet another event, and he's well on his way to being the LIV Tour's Player of the Year. Matter of fact, it would probably take a decent amount for somebody to pass Gooch at this point in time. As Rickie Fowler said, he could feel how well he was playing. You could almost sense that he knew it was a matter of time before he got another one under his belt. Now, the question is, can he convert that to a major? And you could argue Rickie is one of the greatest golfers in the last 10, 12 years to not win one. He probably is the best in the last 10, 12 years to definitely not win one. But he's been playing really good. He had an opportunity at the U.S. Open. He didn't get up and down like he wanted to, and he talked about it. But he's caught fire. And Viktor Hovland's playing well. Talor Gooch is playing well. Alex Noren, he shows flashes. I think Matt Wolff still has quite a few adjustments in him to kind of continue to climb up the leaderboards as well. Over the years, you expect Oklahoma State golf and Oklahoma State wrestling to compete for national titles. You could say the same for cross country. It took us a while to get established in track and field, but we're getting there. It took us a while to go backwards in wrestling and golf. Unfortunately, we're getting there. The golf class, we'll see. The wrestling class looks really good on paper, but we have to see. But I think the bigger question here is, are we willing as a university to look in the mirror and say, you know what? These are the expectations, and what's happening is unacceptable. Because when you have success on the PGA Tour or the LIV Tour, it's major league stuff, right? It's a good look, right? Rickie Fowler rocking orange every single Sunday. It's a phenomenal look. So just like we talk about in football, you got to capitalize. It's all about capitalization. You got to do so in the other sports as well. Alan Bratton, you got to produce this year, buddy. It is great to see Cowboy golfers playing so well. So shout out to Rickie Fowler. Shout out to Viktor Hovland, Alex Noren, Matt Wolf. It's just not right when you see Oklahoma State golf struggle like it did this previous season. It's not right to see them struggle in wrestling either. So tell me what you think in the comments section. Obviously, like it if you like it. Dislike it if you don't like it. And if you dislike it, let me know why and what I could have done to make this thing a little bit better here. But, yeah, we're in dead period. Tomorrow should be a good one. Let me know down in the comments section how strongly you feel about us landing Jonathan Agumadu. If we do that, that kind of rounds out our linebackers for this class in a very, very, very good way, because you also got Landon Cleveland, who could probably hit the weight room and become a linebacker if he really wanted to. Now, we need another Kendall Daniels in the building, so I'm okay if he doesn't. But just like Jaylen Boardley, really good prospect, little undersized. What is he going to develop into being? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he stays at linebacker. It doesn't matter if he gets converted to a safety type. He's athletic to do enough to do both, and he's got the frame and size enough to potentially do both as well. So it's a win-win. Temerrick Johnson, win-win. Tomorrow, we're going to have one of our new commits on the show, so stay tuned for that one. It's going to be a fun little gym. Go ahead, hammer away in the comment section, and let me know who you think is going to be on the show with us tomorrow. But I can't wait. I really can't. This is a good time. Even though we're in the dead period, we're still allowed to talk to recruits via social media, via text message. So in-person stuff, okay, yeah, that's got a little bit of a kibosh on it. But it doesn't mean big things aren't going to continue to happen. It doesn't mean that news is not going to continue to matriculate down from commitments and potential commitments, recruits, and all of that. It's a good time to get in on Oklahoma State. So if you haven't already gone to FanDuel, get yourself hooked up. Hammer the over. And until next time, you guys already know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. And thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, all righty. Later.